purpose for my life that's about more than just me. From grief to purpose. No, I am not my pain, and I'm telling you my journey of healing is gonna take me from grief to purpose. Turning my pain into purpose. From grief to purpose. Turning all my pain into purpose. From grief to purpose.
All right, hello everyone. Today on the podcast, we're joined by Davina McLean-Randall, founder of A Caring Voice for You, with a background as a special education teacher and administrator and holding advanced degrees in counseling. Davina has dedicated her life to supporting individuals through stress, grief, loneliness, and transition. Having faced profound loss herself, she brings both professional expertise and a deep personal compassion to her work. She leads a weekly support group and manages the Facebook community, stress, loneliness, grief, and everything in between. Hi, Davina.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me today on the podcast. It is a delight to have you. Thank you for wanting to just be on to share your own personal journey, because I'm a firm believer, sharing our journeys, not just to heal ourselves, but it's also to, help somebody else along their own personal walk with whatever they're going through. So thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you. And I agree. Absolutely. I agree. It does help anyone who's listening on their personal journey.
So let's get started, because I know you have a story, you've been through some things in life. I want to start though just with your own personal journey, as far as like some of the things that you faced to get to where you are now, and to what you're doing with A Caring Voice for You. But you faced many losses yourselves. Like, what was that and what happened? Just to give us a little bit of context about what you endured to get you to this point now.
Yeah. So, my journey has been pretty long. There's so many things that I could probably, kind of start with, and I'm thinking about where should I start? But long story short, a couple years ago, I went through a significant loss that kind of pushed me to the point where I am today. My life was going fine. I'm a mom. I'm a single mom of 3 kiddos, and things were going well. I had an amazing career, and things were going to the point that I wanted them to in my career and just in life in general. I did go through a divorce, but it was several years past that. And, I was content. I was content in my life. I was doing well financially and just stable. Things were going pretty well. And then I got to a point where I noticed that I was getting sick. I was losing weight. Things were happening in my body that I could not explain, and neither could the doctors. So during that time, I found myself having to take time off work and being homebound for several months, which led to the point of just, loneliness, not really understanding what was going on in my body, having the doctors tell me that they have no clue what's going on, and just feeling a sense of loss in so many ways. Being homebound, that means I couldn't work, I couldn't socialize, I couldn't be around the people that, I was so used to being around on a daily basis. At that time, I was an assistant principal. I loved what I did. I loved being around the kids, and it was more or less like a family atmosphere. So that took a toll on me, just being home as a mom, not being able to do much to continue my regular day-to-day activities at home, literally just being homebound in bed. Having to ask for help, that was a huge one for me. And not really, kind of figuring out what to do at that time that was best for me. And during that time of loss and loneliness, I went through a series of grief. So I lost several family members around the same period of time. So on top of everything that I was going through, just trying to figure out who I am and gain an understanding of that, I lose some family members who I was pretty close to. And it wasn't just all at one time, but it was, I lost someone who I was really close to. And then a couple months later, it was another person. And then a couple months later, it was another person. It was all unexpected. And that sent me into literally a spiral of really not understanding and knowing who I was, because here I was, this bubbly person who, you know, was so sure just a few months ago, things were going well. I was successful, and I, in other people's eyes, looked like I had it all together. And then a couple months later, a couple things happened in my life unexpectedly, and I could not understand who I was. I was just confused, and it sent me to a point where I was sitting in bed and I just couldn't figure out who I was until I felt like I heard from the Lord, my God, my faith, that I should create a caring voice for you. So a caring voice for you is a phone companionship service for anyone going through stress, loneliness, grief, life transitions, and honestly, everything in between. My background is not only in education and administration, but it's also in counseling. So I counseled people for many years. And that was another reason why I was like, you know, what is going on? I have counseled people for many years. I've listened to their stories and things that they have gone through, but why can I not get a grip on my life? I understand challenges. I understand things that come, but going through it yourself is different. It put a spin on things. And I felt like within my faith, the prayer and meditation, that the Lord was pushing me to do something different. And that's how A Caring Voice for You was created. In the middle of my mess, in the middle of, you know, just trying to figure out life. I was sick. I was homebound. I was in bed, and I was a confused mess. But that's when I felt like the Lord spoke to me, and he shared with me what I needed to do. And that's when I obeyed, moved forward, and truly decided to create A Caring Voice for You. And honestly, that's how it was created.
Wow, there is so much to unpack there. It's like, I know we went like this, and we're like, wait a minute. So you went through a divorce, but you said that was several years before you got sick, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on with you. Like, to go back though, did you ever find out like what was going on exactly with you, and and if you did, how did you navigate that? And then I'm sure, because like you go through a divorce and there's trauma with divorce as far as like the mental impact, then here comes something else, even though it's like years later in your personal life, then there's that. You have kids, like how are you moving and navigating as a person, as a woman in this life? What is going on?
I know it is a lot, you know, and I sit back and I reflect sometimes, and when I share with my friends, or we reminisce, and you know, our family, and we reflect on her, like, wow, you know, it's amazing what strength you can have if you push through and you overcome. Yeah. And it sounds like a lot when I say it, but for me, you know, when you push through, and for me, it was my faith, and I have my faith, and I know who God made me to be and what I'm able to do because of his strength in me, that I can persevere and move forward. And to kind of go backwards a little bit, you asked me, did they ever find out what I had? And no, you know, doctors, I love them, you know, they help, but they're practicing. So they don't know everything. And no, they could not really give me a definitive answer on what was going on in my body. And I honestly had to do my own research. I did my own research, and I listened to the Holy Spirit, and I was able to push forward with my own recovery, because the stuff that they were giving me, they gave me some medication, it wasn't working. It was actually reversing my symptoms to make it worse. So I said, oh no, you know, what is it? I prayed, what is it, Lord? What do I need to do? And as he gave me my prescription, I moved forward. And it wasn't quick. It wasn't a quick thing where the next day I was better, but through listening to his voice, and through, you know, just gaining understanding of my own symptoms through research, and, you know, just figuring it all out, I was able to get better. And honestly, I can say today, praise God, I am better. I am 100%, and I am able to do all the things that I used to do. I'm able to eat everything I was able to eat. I can run, jump, climb. I am no longer in bed, and I'm happy and content with where I am physically and mentally.
Wow, that's a blessing. That is a blessing.
Yes.
Just to be able to have overcome, in your health with all that was going on. But to give like a little bit of support to somebody that may be, going through a tough time, and they're, listening to us chat it up here. Like, a lot of people, and this happens to, the best of us, we can be, as people are looking on, us from the outward aspect. And like you said, you are a principal, you counseled many times. And, sometimes when we're in these positions, we feel like, okay, I have it all together, or people think, you have it all together. But at the end of the day, you're still a human, being. You have feelings, you have emotions, you have life that you're going through also. But how did your faith navigate you through those tough times of not, from not figuring out to what was going on with you to having to like research it on your own? And there's that personal journey was, I know you said it was, I'm sure it was difficult, but what did that difficult look like for you? What does that look like? And how did you navigate through it with your faith, like step by step? Sometimes I need it to be broken down. Sometimes I'm a little slow. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm like, to know what she did to get through this process. Like, what was it? Prayer? Was she fasting? Like, what is going on, to help someone else to navigate their own personal journeys?
That's a good question, because so often, during the time when I was in my career, I think like many other people, when you're in a career and you're at this point, you have your head held up high and you feel like, you're kind of on top of the world. And I was at that point where I felt like I was on top of the world. And I had this personality and persona that was not, I feel, respectable in the eyes of the Lord. I felt that within myself. I think other people may have thought differently of me, that I was, just a respectable person. I had a compassion for people. That's just my nature. And I thought I did well, and I was very personable with the students and the parents and just people in general. So on the outside, that was my personality. But I think personally inside, in my own mind, I had that haughty attitude. And I think when you get to that point of internally of believing something, that I may have gotten to that point by my own works, that I may have done things my own way, I feel like often you'll stumble and fall. And I felt like getting sick and being in bed was my way of stumbling and falling, and not really owning up to I did not get there on my own, that I definitely had help to where I was, especially after going through my divorce and so many other things in my life, that I didn't get there on my own, and I kind of fell and tripped over my own words, I think, in a sense, and my own way of doing things. Now, how did I get there? How did I get from being sick, homebound in bed, just trying to figure out life, to where I am today? Definitely prayer. My faith, I found a church, and I was going to church before, but the difference was I was just going to church and I wasn't taking it seriously. I was a Christian. I did things that I thought I was supposed to do, but I didn't have a relationship with the Lord. And when I found myself at that point where I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm spiraling out of control and I don't ever see myself. I found a relationship with the Lord through prayer, meditation, fasting, being with other believers and gaining an understanding of maybe some of the things that they went through. So small groups, and just talking with people who have been through maybe other things that I've gone through, and really just gaining an understanding that I am not alone in what I was going through, and that I can push forward and move forward and have faith. I think that was a big part of it. Sometimes you can be going through something, you can pray, you can read your word, you can do all these things, but unless you have a true relationship with the Lord, and unless you have faith, then it's hard for you to push through. It's hard for you to really see yourself in a different light. And that's what I did. I had to really, truly believe what I was reading and not just say, okay, I was reading it, that's just what I do. I'm a Christian. Yeah. No, I truly had to believe what I was reading was true and walk by it, make my decisions by what I read, and believe that what it said was true. And I think once I got to that point, that's when I was able to say, okay, yes, I'm moving forward. And that's when I was able to see change. Wow. Because I wasn't able to see change. And it was at the point where I was just like, oh goodness, what is going on? I would do things and, it wasn't what I thought would go. It wouldn't go the way that I thought it would until I truly believed that, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And I stuck my feet and I said, I'm going to move forward in this, and I'm going to believe what the Lord said is true. And once I move forward with his word, what he said is true, I continued to pray, fast, meditate. That's when I started seeing a difference in my life. And I know everyone has something different. And I'm not saying that you have to go by faith and you have to go by, believing in the Lord, but that's how I got through. And that's what helped me. And talking to so many other people, many of them describe the same type of situations that they have been through and how they got through it as well. So that's just my prescription on how it worked best for me. And I'm so thankful and I feel so blessed to have that faith and to have that direction and clarity from the Lord through my relationship with him, and not necessarily just being in a church, but my relationship with the Lord is what got me to the point that I am right now.
Wow, that's beautiful, so wonderful. My key takeaways from what you were saying was, for you, right, gathering in a church community was very helpful to you, and as we should, right? We should fellowship and connect. But the relationship and the faith part, for me, because, there's some behind the scenes work, like, you go to church, you go to that, however often you may get to meet, whether it's, for Bible study or for the church service, but then you come home to yourself, and so it's like that relationship that you need to build is what I'm taking away from what you just said. And that faith that you have to have on your own, like that built up faith, like you can't, I don't know. Well, maybe people have connections where they can just call their pastor like, hey, can you build my faith up for me? Can you pray for me? It's like there's things that, God wants to connect with you too. So that's so beautiful that you had that, in your transition. So now as you go through, all of that and you had faith to guide you, how do we get from that place at the end of your transition, I want to say, because you said you had to leave your job, and then that leaving of the job to building, your business where you are now, a caring voice for you. There's a space in there that is like, okay, what are we doing? Like, what is going on here? What is that like? What did that look like for you, and how? Because the valleys and the peaks that have to be traveled first before you can just say a caring voice for you. Like, it doesn't just pop off like that.
Yeah.
So walk us through that.
Absolutely. So, when I felt like the Lord was telling me to quit my job, and that was a big one for me, quitting something that I absolutely love. I thought I would be there until I retired. And just saying, all right, I'm going to quit this job. I'm going to quit, being around the kids that I loved. I love being around the children. And shifting to counseling. Now, I love counseling too. That's my first, I think, my first real love and my passion. But at that, when I first started out with counseling in my career, it can burn you out. So, and I was still doing it while I was an administrator, but I wasn't counseling as often. And I felt like, he shifted and said, all right, this is what I have called you to do. This is your purpose, which, ever since I was a little girl, I could remember having compassion and care for other people and just going out of the way to help others. So that's just in my nature. So when he shifted and shared, that's what I needed to do. I needed to quit my job and literally gave me step by step on how I should proceed. I walked by faith and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I did it. I opened up a Caring Voice for You, and business is new for me. So I had to connect with other people in the business industry to learn how to proceed. And I did that. I took classes and got certifications and met people. And, it has been an excellent journey. I have mentors and people who have supported me. And as I keep going along, I'm learning each and every day. I have found different groups and, just individuals who have been a support. And sometimes they're only in my life for a season, and then they move on, or I move past what they can share with me. And I just keep going. So I learned in the business industry, it's all about relationships as well. Having those different relationships with people who can support you, or you can support them, and building those, the foundation that you need to kind of push your business to be successful. So yes, I had to learn because the counseling that's just my nature. That's easy for me. I have a master's degree in counseling and I've been doing it for many years, but to really just learn the business aspect of it all, that was truly a challenge for me.
Mm. Now, was that the only challenges that you faced, was like the business aspects? I know, like me personally, I went through a transition as well, and it was a faith transition. It was one of those transitions where I left a career and God was like, this is what you're doing now. And I had those, like it was okay, I'm going to be obedient. But in the midst of it, it was lots of avenues and, lots of faith, lots of questions. Did you have any doubts, like what's going to take place next? Were you always were you the one to question your process, or did you look back and be like, maybe I should go back to my, other, job? Like, what is going on? What is the Lord talking about? Or did you just feel very sure and confident, like, no, this is direction. This is the direction that I'm going, and this is what's going to take place. And we're just going to walk it out, as it comes day by day.
That's interesting that you say that, because, for me, when I hear the voice of the Lord, I definitely want to double check, triple check to make sure, is that really what you're saying? And, of course I was at the beginning, I was like, quit my job. Like, I love this job. This is where I was going to retire. This is, and, it was time after time, again, things would happen. And whether it was listen to a podcast or a show, or I was on YouTube, or I would come in contact with various people who had either stories or situations that were just resonated with me, which led me to believe that I was really supposed to quit my job and do what the Lord was telling me to do. So it was not easy. It was one of those things where I had to decide, either I'm going to listen to the voice of the Lord because he carried me to this point. I'm alive. He's carrying me financially. He's doing all these things for me. Am I going to listen to him, or am I going to go back to what I knew from before? I mean, it was working, but it was long hours. It was a lot of work. I love being there, but it was running me down because the hours were super long, and I knew, it was extending what I was able to do as an individual. I think as a single mom, as an individual, it was extending my abilities. But I loved it, and I thought that was what I wanted to do, and it was in my career. It was my career path, so why not keep going? But when I heard his voice, I said, and things kept coming up, and then I would listen to podcasts, and I would hear different things and come in contact with different people. I said, all right, this is how he wants me to proceed. And I said, all right, I'm just going to take my leap of faith. I'm going to do what he said to do. And I knew it wasn't going to be easy. And I decided to do it. I resigned. And when I resigned, I felt confident at first, but then little by little, sometimes you hear voices from other people, voices from within yourself, because you're kind of self-doubting. And then there's other people who are like, what in the world are you doing? You had an excellent career. You were, doing everything you wanted to do. Why? and they don't understand when the voice of the Lord speaks to you, how you need to move, and you need to move within his time. Because if you don't do it, this is what I learned for myself, within his timing, things cannot connect together the way that he planned to. So it was hard to kind of, just ignore people in their comments, or not, have to separate myself from people because of what I knew would come out of their mouths, or just their perspective on my life. So, just having to separate myself and take away a lot of that negative talk was something that I had to do in order to get to where I am. Again, it wasn't easy, but that's something that I had to learn to do, because I was surrounded around so many people that just didn't understand my faith walk, didn't understand where I was headed, and they're not supposed to understand, because it's for me. It's not for them to know and to understand. And people, they aren't going to get where you're headed if you're headed on a path that is being led by the Lord. They are not going to understand what's going on, but you will. And that's all that matters, is that you will understand where you're headed. And as long as you have your faith and you're doing what the Lord says that you're supposed to do, he will continue to carry you and provide for you and do what he needs to do in your life for your purpose and for his glory.
Yes, like that's so important, what you just stated, as far as you're walking along your specific journey, to block out people that are a little bit negative, because I think people in general, even without having a relationship in God, people in general don't understand shifts, and have that faith to be like, you know what, okay, I'm about to switch it up, and when you tell someone, okay, I'm about to do this, why, how they say, don't tell everybody what you do.
That's right. Do not.
Because everyone will have an opinion.
Yes.
Whether you ask for it or not, don't tell everyone what you're doing. And that's often how you have to move to when God comes to you, and that, still small voice, and he's giving you instructions. A lot of times you want to tell, those people that are close to us, and listen what I'm doing, and when you get the feedback, that's kind of often unexpected sometimes, because I faced that also too, where as I was transitioning, people were like, huh? What are you doing? And that can get in your thought process. I wanted to really touch on that and have you share that part too, because I'm sure somebody else is in the middle of a transition and they are trying to navigate it, but you literally have to protect, what it is that, God gave you, and you have to kind of be on defense mode, and it might offend other people, what you're doing. Or if you say, well, listen, you begin to look like you're moving differently, almost like you're not trying to associate, with them, but it's not really that person. It's just the words that they're saying. It's not you're not lining up with what God said. So you have to move a little bit differently. And it is what it is, So because if you didn't move how you moved, Davina, we wouldn't have a caring voice for you.
That's true.
I'm so thankful that you were obedient, to the process. But I wanted people to hear that part, because transitions are not easy. I think, we live sometimes, there's still that microwave generation out there that wants everything right now, and because, well, God said it should happen tomorrow. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. Read your Bible, even in, there's so many transitions they went through. And so, the parts and the ups and downs, I think, needs to be shared more. No, I went through this. No, I was going through this. No, it was, it wasn't always good, and nobody got good, type of thing too. So I love, that you were able to put that out there so that someone can have a real understanding, and not the fake, polished, understanding of what, transition looks like, or heading towards building something, would look like. Now, as we get to, because Caring Voice for you essentially was birthed out of all of what you went through, correct?
Correct.
How did you, where did you start with it? And as far as the mission behind it, where did you, how did we get to that space, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so my mission was to really just reach out to individuals who were going through kind of similar what I was going through, the stress, the loneliness, the grief. And then everything in between. Everything in between is literally just life in itself. I like to say that we are all on a roller coaster. and we have our ups and downs that we go through. Sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low, sometimes we're screaming, sometimes we're excited, and sometimes we're happy. And that is the point, to just provide support for people in the middle of whatever they're going through. So that's really just our focus. And I kind of got to it just because of what I was experiencing. I also, throughout my counseling experience, have connected with so many individuals who struggle with a lot of loneliness, who, in the American economy, a lot of our older adults, and it's not in every culture, but many of the cultures that we have here in America, a lot of older adults often go to nursing homes, independent living facilities, retirement communities, and many of their family members do not visit them. They don't communicate with them as much as they have in the past when, they were growing up or when they had their own homes. So that's my purpose, is to really connect with a lot of older adults, to provide that conversation and support, and the friendship that they often are needing, not from myself, but from two older adults connecting over the phone to build that relationship and that friendship. And that's something that we have. But my goal is to decrease the loneliness, decrease the stress, and the things that they may be going through, and increase the joy in their lives.
Wow. And this is a call service where someone can call in, or is it like a website that they have to schedule their appointment, or how is it set up?
Yeah, so definitely our services are really set up through making an appointment. They can either call or, more than likely, set up an appointment online and schedule a time for us to meet one-on-one. That time is completely free, and it's just a time for us to get to know, what are your needs? How can we best support you? We have so many different services and supports that are available. So that time is meant to just collaborate and find out what you need and how we can support the individual that you're calling about, or you in general. And then we tailor it down to what it is that you're looking for and provide support to you. And all of our services are individualized based on, your individual needs, or what it is that you may need to gain clarity or support, from coaching to business support, small business support, to just having a compassion call, which is having us listen to what you may be going through, or just talking in general about, common topics happening in our communities. Or one of our common services is our health and happiness, which is a loved one will reach out and have us check in on their older adult, or an individual who may need some extra reminders, or a check-in service. And then with that particular service, we provide feedback to that loved one on, how they're doing when we checked in on them. And that's one of our more popular services, because our older adults that live at home, or may be homebound, or just any individual that may be going through something, need that check-in or reminder phone call.
Wow. And we said this is counseling services, not counseling, but call services centered around loss, stress, grief, whatever that person generally might be dealing with. They have someone to reach out to, call. And if it's something outside of your scope, you have referral. But generally they can pick up the phone and just get their needs met via phone call.
So we schedule all of our phone calls. Okay. So they can't just call into us. Once we have that one-on-one appointment and we determine what their needs are, then we develop a schedule of when they would like us to reach out to them. So we will reach out to them based on the schedule, whether it's, a morning appointment or afternoon. But we determine together as a team what works best for the individual that needs the support, and when we should reach out to them. And that's kind of how we support the individuals, and we put them on our schedule. And things shift and change. Nothing's concrete, but that's how we provide support to them. We also connect with college students as well. So we have phone calls from, sometimes we reach out to individuals from early in the morning to late at night, depending on who it is and what they need.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's awesome to be able to have that type of service where they, someone can schedule their call and connect with someone and just say, hey, I'm having a bad day, and get descriptive with you, and you walk them through, because you don't hear, I think we're hearing more about it now, where, mental health is being advocated for, like it's okay to talk about these things, loss, stress, grief, whatever you may be going through, to put a voice to it and teach someone, even though I'm sure you're teaching them as you're talking with them, how to verbalize, how to use the proper language for what they're going through. So that's so amazing. I'm like, I need to schedule my appointment with with you all. That is amazing. And I'm so glad you're reaching out to college students too, because I know it's a lot of things going on within, that time of life. College can be stressful amongst the many other factors that, one may be going through. Now, with the your services, a caring voice for you, and what is there anything that you all are pushing right now? Is there anything that you all are needing support on? And as far as like your website and all that information, of course, will be left down in the description box. But what do you see as far as like a future, even so still, for a caring voice for you? What's the vision for it?
Wow. So our vision is to continue to kind of push forward with helping individuals nationwide. Right now, we are servicing a lot of individuals on the East Coast, but we haven't really moved forward to the West Coast or, East, the middle part of the U.S. So our goal is to continue to just support and provide guidance and resources to all individuals throughout the U.S. Also, we currently have a support group. So our support group is one night a week, and we provide, just a group of individuals, guidance and support, and just allow them to talk together so that they know that they're not alone. So our support group right now, because up until the 14th of February, is 50% off. 50% off for the first month. So that you can try it out and see if it's something that you're interested in. And we have a great group of individuals who, from what they have shared, they'll support it and care for it and support it. And it's somewhat like a small family of just being able to have that guidance and support that they need. And for right now, that's 50% off the first month. And they can learn about it by going to caringvoiceforyou.com. And at the top, you'll see a button that talks about the support groups up there.
Awesome. Now, the support group, is that separate from the Facebook group?
Yes. So my Facebook group is called Stress, Loneliness, Grief, and Everything in Between. And that's just the opportunity to just gain insight on positive encouragement throughout your day. So we provide support through just posting and collaboration in a small Facebook group. So that's something that we have, and anyone is welcome to join. But our support group is where, you have the opportunity to see yourself and others face to face and collaborate. And it's more of a conversational piece that people are enjoying, and they're finding that they are supported and guided and just listened to. I think that's a big part of it too. People want to be listened to, and to also listen to others and know that they're not alone in what they're going through. And life might be hard, but they can find just knowing that they're not alone in their journey.
Awesome. That's so beautiful. Because again, we're in a time right now where we definitely need the support. I feel like more than ever, it's 2025. It's some craziness going on in the world today. But again, we are all collective human beings. We can help one another so that we can, I'm big on, growing together so we can heal together. So it's so beautiful that you have this particular service. Now, you also, Davina, have a podcast, correct? You're doing a podcast? Okay. What do you talk about on the podcast, and where can people tune in?
Yes, my podcast. I call it a show. But yeah, it's called Conversations with Davina, Becoming an Overcomer. It's on YouTube, Facebook, and sometimes we get it on Instagram, but really it's YouTube and Facebook that you can check us out. You can check us out under A Caring Voice for You. That's our tagline in YouTube and on Facebook. For Instagram is under Conversations with Davina. And check us out on there. it's helping individuals realize that, again, they're not alone in what they're going through. We have interviewed all sorts of individuals and people from all walks of life, from talking about grief and divorce to domestic violence. I mean, just it's so much that we have connected with people to talk about and tell their story. And I found it just so amazing that people are willing to share real, raw, stories about what they're going through in order to support others on their journey. And the goal is to really just let people know, just like you are, that you're not alone in what you're going through. We all have our struggles. We all have things that's happening in our lives. And to keep moving forward. That's the goal. Keep moving forward. Don't give up, and know that things will change. Often they will. Nothing will ever stay the same. There will always be a shift in what you're going through. So just don't give up.
Listen, embrace the shifts, you guys. And if you haven't gone through one, they're coming. They're coming.
Yes.
But it's so important, I like the fact that if they can't get to the support group, if they don't feel like they're ready to call you right now, they have the podcast to tune into. Because, it's important to understand you're not alone. Everyone faces struggles. It's okay to talk about it. There's no perfect human being. There's no perfect place, in life. If there is, let me know. I will hop on a plane to get there.
I know, right?
But we're all going through stuff. So, it's okay. Let's help one another. But definitely, for sure, I know I want you to be in a healthy place. Davina wants you to be in a healthy place. So reach out to a caring voice for you, or, tune into the podcast, whatever you're comfortable with doing at this particular time. So before we close, Davina, I would love it if you would just, say something to someone that may help them, support them, encourage them. I know I felt in your conversation, because sometimes you feel like as you're going through a very faith walk transition, or I should say the type of transition that takes faith, a little bit of courage, to like separate yourself and not be like the norm. That takes something, to get from point A to that point B. But if you could just encourage somebody that might be going through something similar as your personal journey, and they're in this, middle ground here, and they just need that little bit, that extra little push, if you would just give them some encouragement, share something with them before we close out.
Absolutely. I was thinking or kind of reflecting on, just as you were talking, what I did not share that I did. And something that I did not share was, yes, I was praying, I was fasting, I was meditating, I was reading the word, and I was going to church. But in that in-between moment when you're home or when you are not around others, I always listen to praise and worship music, or I listen to something that's going to not allow that negativity to creep into your mind. We all have those moments where those negative thoughts start coming in, or, you just aren't sure about your decisions that you made or where you are in your journey. So what I did, and what I encourage others to do, is find something that's going to help fill that space in your mind from that negativity. And what I do is I listen to positive, encouraging music. Or I listen to sermons or different podcasts that's going to help. Because when you fill that space, sometimes that empty space, if you're not listening to something, that those negative thoughts will come in, but fill that space with something that's going to uplift you and encourage you. And that will keep you going. That will, in a sense, give you your energy to push forward, to move forward in between maybe you attending church, or you being with a group of friends or loved ones that can help motivate you. So find things that's going to fill that space with positivity in your life to help push you and keep you going.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Beautiful. And definitely the truth. You know, what is that? The scripture says, right? Death and life are in the power of the tongue, right? Meaning words, right? So what you put into you, you know, is what's going to come out of you. I'm a big believer on that too. And, you know, I also, you know, do that, pray and, you know, play the positive stuff, you know, or something, you know, again, it doesn't have to be always, you know, worship music, but I definitely am one to be like, what are these? Like, what's the word? Like, what are we talking about? Because you are feeding your soul. So, you know, when you're in that transition, you know, God has more for you. He has greater for you. You got to like build those muscles up like you're going to the gym, right? You build up those muscles in the gym. It's the same thing with your faith walk. You're like, how am I building up my spiritual muscles? You know, so thank you so much for sharing that, because that was on point. And definitely needed. You know, iron sharpens iron. So if you're listening and tuning in to the podcast episode today, I hope that, you know, the journey that Davina shared, you know, and we only have like, you know, just a little flat here, a little, you know, time. But I hope that it encouraged you in some way to help support you along your journey. So if you're feeling like, you know, you don't have anybody, you're all by yourself, I don't have anyone in my life to encourage me and say those, you know, kind and loving and supportive words. I've never had that. I don't even, you know, so because sometimes when you get that, it feels weird. Listen, connect with Davina, a caring voice for you. Okay. It's in the title. I mean, a caring voice for you. She's there to reach out to her and to call, you know, not be scared to call, not be scared to connect, because your future needs you to make some moves too. Okay. But thank you so much, Davina, for joining me on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. Before we close out though, look, not in my second closing. I don't do that, y'all. Like, and in my third closing, like, no. But before we end the podcast episode, is there anything else that you would like to say or share before we end it here?
No, just thank you so much for having me on. I'm so honored to be a guest on your show, and I appreciate it. And for the audience, if you're interested, we're at caringvoiceforyou.com, and check us out.
Yeah, everything's going to be in the description. You also be sure, our website, all of her social media handles. Be sure to follow Davina, a caring voice for you, and get the services that you need. All right, you guys, this was our podcast episode from Grief to Purpose. Thank you so much for tuning in, for joining us, and be sure to subscribe to stay tuned on all of our podcast episodes. All right, you guys, bye.
All I know is it's something.